nothing on the agenda.
Hello.
Yeah, me too. Works for me.
I know, that's my bed too, you can't, it's on the same day,
Yeah,
saved me a whole day, I was like, sweet.
Good work.
What's happening? Watching fun in the village.
You see how we tried to flip it to us now with Boy Heaven?
Oh, yeah.
I keep.
Writing the wrong.
No, I got that back.
Isn't it funny Benji was in charge of Boy Haven when that went down? Then he chimes in, gives us 2
Oh,
cents.
yeah.
Angela just ran into them in Starbucks
Oh, really?
on Facebook. Wow. Recorded.
Oh, really? Oh, that's up. Comedy Central.
Yeah, he asked somebody to call 911.
Was he on the couch for?
Because he saw her harassing him, asking him why his life.
That's not what that's.
Kind of wish that she would have avoided that. Because we got the high road right now. I know, but we got the high road.
She called him on the carpet.
She did.
Oh, you too?
No, she asked him 5 times in 30
What'd she
seconds. Why are you lying about me on Facebook?
Huh. That was a big one. Village.
You no for the next 15 months.
Well, Frank won't run again until we run again, so we gotta let you know.
November next year.
Yeah. That's quite a ways.
Yeah, but until then, I said, you just gotta make them say no 100 times.
That was a huge score, that,
That's big.
the village, that
The
was.
thing with that though, Dave, is even when they're gonna obviously vote against them, but he's just gotta make them.
Of course.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is the reason why you should.
what
Yeah.
the people want. This is what the people want. This is what the people want. And then they say,
Exactly.
no, 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 no. And then you come out next November or leading up and say,
Mhm.
we tried to get all this done for you.
Yeah, we're live.
We're live, guys.
It's recording right now. Just a heads up, we're on the air.
I just noticed.
That's the last minute. Last minute strikers join the Zoom probably.
Oh, I saw Phil's car here. Oh, I saw Barrett's car here. Mr. Chairman. Hey, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Barrett.
Hi there, Amy. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Okay, yeah, we can hear
In the
you.
20th century or something.
Except for Mr. Ostrand. We might be on a little bit of a delay.
Well, he's stuck in the 18th.
So we can hear you.
the cord take to tape.
It's like the what?
Maybe a 6 more.
Maybe it's-
5 minutes.
And Matt, looks like a kid with a new toy. Oh, that's too much more.
I'll try.
Good to see you.
Pull up a seat. How you doing?
The original, right?
Really want another minute or so.
She's working, huh?
So far.
This is our first, I don't know if you tell, this is our first meeting in this room with the new cameras,
Yeah. we have a lot
Live
of-
TVs. We are live.
we are live. Ooh, here we are.
Right on you.
The camera even makes Phil look good.
What's that?
Said that camera even made you look good.
As filtered out.
I used to like you.
This could just be
This is
able
a
to
good
go
side.
That was
That's
on your good side.
Phil, that was unsolicited. too.
Yeah, I know.
Total
I
unsolicited.
thought Cora would really make it
It's
right.
like the kid's cell phone, it's got a nice filter.
Just when you think you know something.
Oh, yeah.
I would never have said that to you, Phil.
I know, but-
I would have.
That you know of.
I definitely would have, Phil.
They were all
Yeah, I'd
thinking.
expect it from you.
Is Tim on the line?
He won't be.
Spring was coming. you know? Couple days. So got the kids loaded up in the bus today. I looked at the temperature and it was like 20.
After my son's double header.
Stay outside?
Like it'll be 36 tomorrow.
They canceled
60
tomorrow.
Thursday.
Yeah. Where are they playing?
They played with Joe on Saturday.
Did they really?
We were supposed to play tomorrow.
Yikes. He's not using a composite vest.
Yes.
Chairman, where you sitting in the air.
How's everything? We had last fall, we had a game where over at Chen, someone had
Lost tomorrow in your town at 10 o'clock.
Well, welcome everybody to the 4 o'clock meeting of the Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership. I'm Maria Moran, Chairwoman of the Prosperity Partnership. First item we have is our adoption of our minutes from the prior meeting. Did everybody get a chance to review? questions or comments, suggestions for changes? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to make a motion to have the minutes adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Nope.
Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the treasurer's report. Rocky, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a couple of comments, just for clarification. On the, in the billings, listing there, a couple items. Number one, the ATC Visa bank service charges, I believe that's related to some automatic payments associated with Zoom, and QuickBooks, like that. And also in terms of the Sand Lake Industries, check number 2696, that's related to a Walter Works project that was done in 2021. And in any case, apparently there was realization that the bill was only partially paid at that time. And as a result, based on further investigation, et cetera, it was fully paid out. That was due to the vendor. So we're all set there. And then finally, on check number 2694, Historic Respect New York, that's a reimbursable amount. So obvious reasons, we don't have too many checks written or too many expenses associated with the activities. The only other thing I want to bring to your attention is on the statement of financial position, page two. It's still showing under the accounts pay, under credit cards, Shelby Snyder's credit card. A new card has been issued that has been eliminated. It's just a matter of setting up the books for that line, for that statement to state the new credit card and not Shelby. So, and the difference there is in terms of the amount 164.75 versus the amount that was paid of 165.68. I guess there was a credit for 92 cents or something like that relative to that amount, right?
Yes.
So that's all I have basically in terms of the financial statement. Once again, it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Rocky. Does anybody have any questions for Rocky? I'd like to make a motion to accept Rocky's treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion, we need a vote. So, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next we have the audit presentation by Amy Pedrick of Weston Company. Amy, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that have been on the board in the past, I've either met with you in person or via Zoom the last couple of years to go over the audit of the partnership. As was the same last year, it was a completely remote audit. I want to give thanks to Matt and Maria for working through the audit with me this year. A lot of obviously the changes within the organization, but Matt and Maria did a wonderful job getting me everything that I needed and answering any questions that I had. So it was a very clean audit, and I'll go through the draft financial statements and the draft tax return. But at any point in time, please feel free to stop me with any questions you may have. I believe Matt has provided you, there's 3 different documents. There is the schedule of investments, the financial statement, and the 990, which is the draft tax return. I'm going to start with the easy little one, the schedule of investments first. So this is something that the ABO has required for the past few years for all authorities that are filing in Paris, and you have to have an audited schedule of investments. But the partnership has no investments. They have your funds are truly in cash. So if you look at this 5-page document, the first 2 pages are our opinion on the investment, saying it's a clean opinion. The 3rd page literally says we have no investments. So we have some required footnotes, and then the last page is our permitted investments. So these are the investments that your policy allows per the partnership. And that's all this statement is. It is truly just to comply with Paris and the ABO to make sure you have this on file, and this will get filed by the March 31st and be included in the upload. So the more meaningful statement, which I'm going to go over a little more slowly and thoroughly is the one that says draft and it says Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership, and it's the financial statement itself for the years ending December 31, 2021 and 2020. For those that have received the drafts in the past, in the prior years, this is the first year, and I can't tell you how many years, the opinion pages 1 and 2 look different now. So our profession decided that we used to have the opinion buried in the back and the bottom of it, and it was kind of hard to find. So now we have right at the top, we have audited the financial statements, and in our opinion, the company financial statements present fairly. So that's a clean, unmodified opinion, the highest opinion we give as a profession and what the partnership has received in the past. And then the rest of the opinion goes on and talks about the management's responsibility, my responsibility as your auditor, and then some of the things that we do to make sure we perform our audit in accordance with required guidelines. So there's just a little bit more information and opinion this year than there was in the past. But the financial statements themselves start on page 3, and that's your statement of financial position, or essentially your balance sheet. And again, this is as of December 31, 2021. You had at the end of the year about $147,000 in cash. Your accounts receivable was large only because we had the 2 payments from the county which hadn't been received as of December 31, but I know they have been received since then. So they are in AR as well as a grants receivable. So the organization is going to be requesting reimbursement from the USDA for some projects that you guys worked on. Specifically, it was MRB. Consulting, and that's going to be requested for reimbursement from USDA, and so that because it relates to expenditures that happened in 21, they have to be recorded as their accounts receivable. So your current assets are $395,000, a little bit in fixed assets, and that's your phone system and stuff like that, and so your total assets are $404,000. Liabilities, we just have some accounts payable that were invoices that we had received that were relating to 2021 recorded of about $16,000, and that left us with net assets of about $388,000. And how we got there was our activity during the year, and that's on the next page, the statement of activities, or essentially your income statement. So the top is your revenues, and you'll see that revenues are up over last year. The county revenue was a little bit higher. Your grant income was a little bit higher. Included in that 97 is not only the USDA grant money, but is also your PPP loan forgiveness. That's about $55,000, and that gets included in grant income. Your Startup New York, which is virtually is actually a pass-through, and you'll see an expense for the same exact amount down below in the expenditures, and then some other revenue, which is some event sponsorship and the BHAN study, the fee-for-service revenue of $12,000 is included in there. So your total revenues are just about $626,000. Expenses for the year are down significantly over prior year, only about $295,000. And again, the biggest change is obviously the change in the organization, and the salaries have gone down. We only had Shelby and Amy through part of the year, and then no salary. So if you look at the salary line, which is 2/3 down the page, salaries were $258,000 last year, only about $95,000 this year. And then our rent was down as well due to the change in space. We had some stewards left over, and this year we only just had the chamber space. So again, and your consulting expense went up, but that kind of is a direct offset with the salaries pretty much. So overall, your net assets increased about $330,000. We have a small other change in assets, and that's just correcting prior year balances. What happens in QuickBooks sometimes is when the year doesn't get locked down in a system, but really any nonprofit that I have that works in QuickBooks doesn't do that. And if sometimes things change within the checks or the balances, and it affects prior year balances. So in order to just correct prior year balances and get us to where we need to be this year, we had about a $4,000 other change in net assets, but nothing significant and nothing that would cause any alarm. So your net assets at the end of the year at the $188,000. Then after that, we have on page 5, your statement of functional expenses. So this was added a few years back. It's pretty much is an exact mirror to what's in the 990 or the tax return, and it breaks down your expenditures between your program expenses, your management in general, and then total. So you'll see this year, last year, your management in general was about $230,000. This year, about $96,000. And again, biggest chunk of that is a lot of Shelby's salary and a lot of Amy's salary went into that management in general function. And we didn't have that this year. And then last year, we had less, our program were higher because we had our expenses in total were higher, but with COVID, some of our program expenditures weren't as high. So overall, just under $200,000 of program, $96,000 of management in general to get your $295,000 of expenditures this year. Then jumping ahead to page 7, these are the footnotes. They are essentially unchanged from prior years. What these do is they give you some more information about the organization, how we account for things, some more support for some of the numbers. So footnote 1 just goes on for a couple pages. It talks about who we are, what we do, what our accounting policies are in regards to cash, revenue, recognition, etc. And that goes on for all the way to page 9. Footnote 2 on page 9 is the amount that we have nothing due to or from Saratoga County at the end of the year. Related party transactions, this is just remaining on for this year. The PPP loan was through a bank that was from a prior board member when he was an officer. So that just is there this year. It will go away next year. Lease commitments, footnote 4. Footnote 5, liquidity. This is one that's kind of an important one to nonprofits. So you guys have in liquid assets that can be used going forward for your expenditures in the fiscal year 2022 is $384,000. All of your cash and all of your accounts receivable is unrestricted. It's not set aside for a specific purpose, so it is there for use and available for use at the beginning of the year. We do have the required footnote about the PPP loan, just saying that it was all forgiven. And then we have our footnote 7, which was added last year, and that's in regards to the leaseback agreements for G&G as well as Spark Shop. So that's that $61,000 of Startup New York that's a revenue and an expense, and they equal each other. And then the footnote 9 is a subsequent event regarding the status of the partnership. And I got that information from Matt from some prior board minutes that you guys had in February. So, and then after that, after the footnotes, we just have another opinion on page 12 and 13. Because you're a component unit of the county and we have to audit you as a governmental entity, we have to issue what we call a yellow book opinion. And all that is a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And we had no significant issues, no significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, anything that would modify that opinion. So that as well as a clean opinion with no findings. And that was a pretty quick go through of the financials. Did anybody have questions or anything they'd like to talk about specifically the financials before I jump to the tax return section? Okay. All right. So then the last piece is the 990. This is required to be made available to the board prior to submission. It's not due till May 15th, but because we have to get everything for you guys wrapped up for your Paris submission, it's all here and ready for your review to be filed as soon as you guys have approval. And really the 990 is just your federal tax return. It takes the numbers from the financial statements, plugs that into the tax return, and it has more information in it. So it lists all the board members. It lists gives you the number of employees, the policies that you have, things like that. So it has more information in it other than just the numbers. But the 990 itself in its format has not changed in many years. So it's really set up the same way, and it's just a regurgitation of the financials with the same information that we've had in the past. Is there any questions regarding the audit process at all on the financials in 990?
Amy, you'll have to forgive me. I didn't include the 990 in our packet. I wasn't aware that was part of it, but I'm just trying to pull it up now.
Let's see. Would you like me to try to share my screen? I'm not the best at this stuff, but I will do my best. Or do you have it?
Actually, yeah. Why don't try and share your screen real quick?
Oh no, I'm disabled. You disabled me from doing that. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So. Do you have your email, Matt? I can email it to you really quick.
Yeah, email it to me really quick if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And again, this is not due till May 15th, so it's not anything that has to be approved today. It's not required to be uploaded into Paris. It's not anything that has to be done today. It's a May 15th deadline, but it is all situated just because we get everything else set. So.
Thank you so much, Amy.
And the only thing with this one, and you'll notice, is on the first page. We list that there are 15 voting members, but if you go back in the document a few pages, you'll see the listing of the board members. And because the one board member resigned, we have it and another person replaced him. We have 16 listed, but there's only 15 voting members at a time. And that's the only little change from last year.
I can still send that out and then.
So I think what we'll do is distribute the 990s by email, and then we can vote on it at our next meeting in April. But in the meantime, just to reiterate something that Amy said, the 990 is basically a lift from the financial statements, so there would be nothing on the 990 financial wise that we haven't already seen in the statements. It's everything else about it is informational.
Correct. Yes, that is correct. Everything in the financial statements and the numbers are all from the financial statements themselves. And then there's just informational data in there in terms of the board members, the policies that you have, etc. But
Thank you, Amy.
thank you.
Do you have any other thoughts or questions for the auditor, Amy? Amy did a phenomenal job explaining everything. We thank you so much for that.
And no problem. And if anybody does come up with any questions after they look at that 990, Matt and Maria, you both have my contact information. So feel free to forward anything on, and I'm available to answer questions at any time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we need to accept the financial statements. We'll take a vote on that. I'd like to get a motion to accept the financial statements.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody in favor? Thank you. Motion passed. We have on our agenda the, yes.
Great, can we, would it make sense to vote on anything else we need to vote on in reference to this, do that now?
Do we need a separate vote on the investment report that was presented as part of the?
Do we have to vote to accept the audit?
But we did, right, just now?
Oh, that was the financials. Oh, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So to clarify to Supervisor Barrett's point, that what we just voted on was for the financial statements, the audit financial statements. Thank you.
That includes the 990 then?
Well, I thought maybe we can vote on that next time unless, I mean, just so that everybody gets a chance to see it, because there is other information on that 990 other than what is in the financial statements. So if you'd like to do that, or if you'd like to vote on it now, it's.
I think it would be okay to vote on it now.
Okay, that's perfectly fine then.
I mean, as long as your CPA and the auditor
Right.
feels that it's legit and ready to go, and the information's taken right from there to the 990, I'm comfortable with that. But I'm open to other thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it to a PDF here.
34 pages. No. I mean,
Marie, did you take a look at the 990?
I haven't seen it.
Just defer to next month.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll vote on this next month. Everybody will have a chance to look at it, ask any questions. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is the approval of the annual report. It's in your packet, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be. Might be the very last page. Yeah, very last page.
The report is on the very last page of your packet. It's a month-by-month snapshot of what happened throughout the year for the partnership. Hopefully everybody got a chance to read it. Any questions? Comments?
It was a good summary from
I think,
my review.
yes, I thought Matt did a phenomenal job, just recapping everything very high level, so it's easily digested and didn't need a lot of fluff. Right,
A little bit different than last year's. This is basically a meat and potatoes version, and it will satisfy our reporting requirements for the APO.
perfect.
And there's a one pager, like the officials appreciate
Yes. Okay, so can we take a vote? May I have a motion to accept the annual report as presented? Everybody in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Next, we have the election of the officers. We have a slate presented. Chairwoman, myself, Maria Moran. Vice Chair is Tim Sapanic, who is not here. He's excused for today. Treasurer Steve Folger, Administrator Folger. And Secretary Chairman Kuzner's. I have a vote.
I can't type, just so you know.
Okay. So we need a vote on this, so I would like
So I'll
to make,
move that.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Everyone in favor? Passed. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the appointment of the CEO and CFO. For CEO, Jason Kempner of the Planning Department, which makes sense because that department will be taking over the operations of the partnership. And for CFO, Matt Rose has graciously accepted to continue in that role, helping out with the day-to-day operations.
Hopefully this one lasts a little while. His last title didn't last too long.
For the record, these are uncompensated positions.
Yes, thank you so much for stating that. All right, is everybody in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the management update. Tim, would you like to present that?
Absolutely. So thank you. This is my my last update for the group. We've been since last month's meeting working on trying to tie up a lot of loose ends and help transfer things over to Jason's department. So a couple key areas of focus. First of all, I have to give kudos to the team that we have here at the county in being able to grab this and help make the transition very easy. So that's, we're in very, very good hands there. Second, I was really impressed. We did a pretty deep dive and I worked with Justin Miller on taking a look at the bylaws, because making this transition from the way the organization had operated previously to where we're going, I said, let's really be very thorough about how the bylaws have been written and do they need to be restructured. And we spent quite a bit of time going through the bylaws line by line, and we really don't need to make any changes to the bylaws. So that's definitely a good thing, that the organizational capacity is going to be able to continue in the manner that it was, and you're not going to have to make any sort of significant changes. We obviously have the two staff members here from the county that are going to be taking on those. I frankly, I think they should double the salary for the positions, but that's certainly not up to me. You guys deserve every penny of it. But no, you're definitely in good hands there. A couple open issues. We are still working to wrap up the USDA project. We do have the ability to likely have an extension there. We're trying to find really the easiest path to be able to get those funds out the door and leverage the extension for the balance of those funds. So before the end of this week, we'll be hopefully wrapping up that discussion and getting those priorities in place. There is a small amount of money left in that grant that would like to be spent out if we can. There's a lot of restrictions on where it can go, how it can be used. I'm just trying to make sure that we get that done in the appropriate manner and leverage those federal dollars. The other with the startup Matt has that well under control, so there's not really much to do there. And then the final project is the ASMC convention that's happening in Saratoga Springs. We have, worked with SCDC and putting that together to make sure that the county is properly represented. We get a couple hundred engineers and decision makers from the semiconductor industry coming into town. It hopefully will get back to where it was a few years ago, and that was over 400 people. They're now looking like it's going to be at least over 200. But COVID certainly reared its ugly head there. And that's about it for me. If there's any questions, I'm happy to tackle any of your questions.
I want to thank you, Tim, so much for, stepping up to the role of consultant and helping the partnership to do a transition. Like you said, the transition went very, very well. Tim's last day, for anybody who doesn't know, working as a consultant for the partnership is this Thursday. And like I said, has done a great job.
I'm not going that far, so.
Right, he'll be here, right?
If you guys need anything, you can always give me a call.
Thank you, Tim, so much.
My pleasure.
And I just want to reinforce what Tim stated. I know I had an opportunity to work with Jason professionally when I was in charge of the Capital Distribution and Planning Commission, and tremendous asset. So he'll be an excellent CEO for the organization moving forward.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Rocky, for all the time you put in as treasurer.
Thank you.
That was probably the busiest of any board position we had other than chair.
Well, let's get
You did a
Matt.
really good job, so thank you.
Thank you. And with most of the staff working, very challenging, pivoting from the staff to Matt taking on that responsibility. And Matt did a great job, in terms of, working through that transition, and then the financial statements, et cetera, associated with that. And then obviously with Maria's knowledge too, doesn't hurt in terms of her role.
We had such a great working relationship. We had small work groups throughout the year that kind of helped to make that transition. And Rocky was always able to, join us, very enthusiastic, and took it on and asked questions and just got in there, and so happy. It worked out really well. Thank you, Rocky.
And just another quick update. We are in the process of working with the chamber about our offices up there in Saratoga Springs. We'll be obviously moving out of there, and so we're in the process of figuring out what's the chambers, what's our property, what all that kind of stuff. Work with Matt and Jason, and so we'll be cleaning out up there within the next couple of weeks, I would think so.
That's great.
Yeah. Yep.
So our last item on the agenda is future meeting schedule. So we have one scheduled for April 25th, which I suggest keeping because we do have a couple of things that we can discuss, which is I would like to finally get to close out the 401k that existed when there were employees, which no longer serves any purpose for anyone right now. So I'd like to get that shut down. And we may have some changes to the bylaws that we would need to discuss and vote on. So other than that, we don't have a long-term meeting schedule planned at this point. Maybe we can discuss whether it would be necessary to get together on a quarterly basis, but we can discuss that next meeting, I think would be appropriate. Okay. And also another thing, obviously, that we're going to be talking about next meeting in April will be the 990. That is all I have. Does anybody have any other comments, suggestions, concerns, questions? Okay.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
All right.